The safety of the American operational infrastructure is being held up by a conditional clause that has nothing to do with security and everything to do with the ballot box. Yesterday, March 23, 2026, the DHS shutdown remains in a state of total liquidation of progress after President Trump issued a final ultimatum. Support the Save America Act or the department remains closed. As a CPA, I track material dependencies. When a parent company refuses to fund its security subsidiary until a completely unrelated bylaw amendment is passed, we are looking at a governance default. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has labeled this move ridiculous and callous, arguing that Trump is using millions of Americans as hostages for a bill that has no pathway to clearing the 60-vote filibuster threshold. From a forensic perspective, this is a regulatory impasse. The Save America Act would impose a host of new ID requirements for both registering and casting ballots. Because this bill is currently stalled in the Senate after a party-line House vote, it has become a non-performing asset in the negotiations. The audit trail shows that the funding for 60,000 TSA agents is now being traded for a total restructuring of election integrity laws. I'm Camilo Motato, reporting for Camilo's House. In my professional capacity, I specialize in conflict of interest audits. In a standard audit, when a director tries to change the voting shares of the company by withholding the security budget, it triggers an immediate internal control flag. We are auditing a policy conflict where one side sees voter suppression and the other sees election integrity, while the operating expenses for national security remain at zero. In a standard business restructuring, when a core service fails, management often attempts a technical workaround by shifting staff from one department to another. President Trump's administration is currently gearing up to send ICE agents to conduct airport security as TSA lines reach critical levels. From an investigative standpoint, this is a strategic asset misallocation. ICE agents are trained for immigration enforcement and removals, not the technical quality control of airport screening. By moving these specialized assets to the airports, the administration is essentially diluting its primary mission of border security to cover the operational deficit at the TSA. It's an expensive temporary patch on a systemic funding leak. Chuck Schumer's primary defense is the hostage asset argument. He claims that by tying the Save America Act to the DHS budget, millions of Americans are being used as collateral for an election-focused goal. As a professional CPA, I analyze the opportunity cost of this standoff. Every hour a traveler spends in a 4-hour security line is a loss of productivity that filters through the entire national economy. Schumer is arguing that the price of admission for this deal, accepting new voter registration laws, is a bad faith requirement that doesn't belong on the DHS balance sheet. However, the White House views this as a package deal to restore overall national integrity. The most significant audit barrier to a resolution is the 60-vote threshold in the Senate. Because the Save America Act passed the House on a party-line vote, it lacks the broad shareholder support needed to clear the filibuster. In accounting terms, this is a management deadlock. Neither side has the voting power to force their agenda through, but both sides have the power to block the other. With the 2-week recess approaching at the end of this week, we are looking at a strategic default on the government's obligation to fund its own security checkpoints. The voter ID clause has effectively turned a standard operational expense into a permanent policy dispute. The final audit of March 23, 2026, shows a Department of Homeland Security in total operational arrears. The Save America Act is the unfunded mandate that has frozen the entire system. My verdict is that we are witnessing the insolvency of bipartisanship. You cannot manage a national security budget through a line-item ultimatum. By tying the paychecks of TSA workers to a rewrite of election laws, the administration has created a material weakness in the safety of the traveling public. Until one side is willing to decouple these unrelated accounts, the 36-day shutdown will continue to accumulate social and economic interest that the taxpayer will eventually have to pay. But I want to hear from you. Is it a masterstroke to use the DHS budget to force a vote on election integrity? Or is it a callous game that puts travelers at risk? Should the Save America Act be debated as a standalone asset instead of being tied to the TSA? Let me know in the comments. Your perspective is the only audit that matters when the lines get long and the politics get loud. I'm Camilo Motato for Camilo's House. Subscribe to stay informed on the truth behind the headlines. Stay safe.